Hello, I'm Tom O'Brien, the Executive Director of the Center for International Trade and Transportation at California State University, Long Beach. And I want to thank the South Bay Cities COG for inviting me here today to talk about the intersection of trade, transportation, the future of mobility, and the workforce. This is a topic that is, I think, important for this discussion of intersections. One, because transport is central to economic life in our region, in the South Bay in particular. It's also important to the state and the nation. On top of it, the pandemic has revealed challenges and opportunities related to mobility. The demands, for example, of office space impacting future transport patterns. But it's also revealed some possible challenges in the future of work and the security of work in a new environment. I want to start by talking briefly about the future of mobility, and then we'll talk a little bit about the future of work. The future of mobility, I think, is both machine-centric and human-centric. It involves technological advancements impacting traditional modes of transport, but it also includes advanced technologies that create new opportunities that haven't yet existed through augmented reality, artificial intelligence, virtual reality. And I think as well that the impacts are going to be felt globally. Global trade is important to us here because of our port sector, but it also affects local policy-making decisions about the relationship between e-commerce, for example, and the use of streetscape for everyone else. Yesterday's Tomorrows, right, is actually a book and an exhibit that LACMA hosted in the 1990s. And I share these images with you as a reminder that we've always tried to envision what our future would look like. And it often includes a transport future that is clean and fast and connects people to where they live, where they work, and where they play. And at the heart of all of this is an environment that is sometimes bucolic, sometimes frenetic, but always incorporates the way we move both people and goods. And that's no different than the futures that we look at today. The difference, though, is that today's tomorrows, as opposed to yesterday's tomorrows, appear much closer on the horizon, and that's because of the rapid change and advancement of technologies. So while some of these technologies like self-driving cars and drones are not yet in widespread use, perhaps, we know that they're coming. But what does this mean then for the future of work? Well, I think there will be changes in how we learn, what we learn, and why we learn it. Part of this is going to require some changes for us in the academy, in what we teach and how. The traditional academic ladder that takes people from an entry-level position and helps them develop skills for lifelong work, particularly if possible in a single occupation, is not going to be the case anymore. As a start, we're going to have to be looking at how industry certifications can be embedded into our traditional degree programs, for example, because they will be demanded by employers, and students will view it as, for want of a better term, currency on the job market. The other thing that I think students are going to have to realize, and this gets to the point of the right-hand side, is that they're going to have multiple on-ramps and off-ramps to get to their end goal, the desired job, whatever it might be. And it's not going to be a traditional linear path. It's going to be circuitous. It's going to be requiring the development of different types of skills at different stages of life and career. We're going to define employability differently. This comes from research that we did looking at employers' needs in the Southern California logistics sector. And what is most interesting, I think, about this is that the job-specific skills are ones that in many cases employers think they can teach on the job. What they're interested in are things like critical thinking, communications and interpersonal skills, collaboration and teamwork, customer service, adaptability and resilience, which I think speaks volumes about what the workforce is like today. And then I'll call out digital literacy, because that was stressed in many different ways at all levels, at the entry level with knowledge of what we might consider basic computer skills, up to the ability to incorporate advanced technology into the workplace. And these changes are going to be felt economy-wide, but I think in particular, at least for our discussion, in the transport and mobility workforce. And I think we can say everything old is new again, right? As I mentioned earlier, this is something that's not a new phenomenon. But what is new is the acute nature of the problem and the speed with which we're having to adapt, right? And the challenge of preparing for workplaces and occupations that don't even exist yet. New types of technicians that we're just learning about on the workplace, and we are having to be nimble and agile in response in developing those programs. The interdisciplinary nature of the work. It's no longer, at least in the transport sector, good enough to know about transportation. In a world where the state creates mandates for transition to zero emission technology, the transport worker has to understand energy systems, the life of a battery, the role played by a public utilities commission. That's all important. And therefore, those foundational skills that I referenced in the slide before, the critical thinking, the adaptability and resilience, become part of the student's core learning and an expectation that the employer has for what a strong candidate will bring to the workplace. On the demand side, on the student side, they're increasingly concerned with the cost of education, and from what we can tell in our programs, looking for a more menu-driven approach that allows them to design their own program that reflects their future hopes and what they see as the reality of the workplace. Part of that is going to require us redefining what a transport occupation is, right? The largest in-demand occupation still in transport is the driver, the bus driver, the truck driver in particular. What does that look like? And is there an opportunity for that person in a future where the transport may be automated in nature? And I think the answer is yes, if we can show some own adaptability and resiliency on our end in the training and education field. This to me is an important slide because it shows what I hope in many ways will be the future, one that includes technology and humans side by side in the same workplace. This again is a reference to my early point, a machine-centric and a human-centric world. This is a dock worker alongside an automated guided vehicle at a port, and a distribution and warehouse worker working with robotics. The fact is that part of the question is, in fact, and I'm not naive about this, labor saving and the role that technology plays in efficiency, but also the need for people to manage and understand the work processes, to plan for adjustments, to read and use the data that's being generated by information technology, and to give meaning to data, right? This is on the left-hand side a screenshot from a crowdsourcing program that truck drivers use to share information on available truck spaces. Well, the human part of this is, what do you do with the data to help design policies that don't require truck drivers to stop alongside of the freeway? How do you make land use decisions about where to put truck stops? On the right, it's the potential application of blockchain in the transport sector. And all of these different layers of data, including dealing with privacy, managing contracts and communications, have a human interface as well. So then I think the final question is how do we prepare and engage people for the future of transport? I think the first question is, or the first step is questioning your assumptions. If the assumption is that technology eliminates all jobs, again, I don't want to be naive, but is that in fact the case? It might appear counterintuitive, but this is a page from North America's first autonomous truck driving certificate program. This comes out of Arizona, and these are students who hold commercial driver's licenses being trained to work in the cab of automated trucks, where the job function has shifted to diagnostics, to system override, but knowing the road helps tremendously in this area. Similarly, the transition to zero-emission fleets means new opportunities for the design and maintenance of not only the vehicles themselves, but the infrastructure, right? And we have a very innovative program in California, the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, which has been a partnership of the state through the California Energy Commission, trade unions, private sectors, and equipment OEMs, the equipment manufacturers. The other thing I think we need to be prepared for is to embrace lifelong learning. Increasingly, we're seeing opportunities and the need to introduce these the questions of technology into the high schools and even middle schools. The bottom center picture is of high school students at a trade association meeting in Long Beach. On the upper left-hand side, you may notice some of your colleagues in the South Bay cities who were part of a training program that we offered, looking at how do you plan for conflicted use of the curb when you have freight, e-commerce, passenger vehicles, bikes, pedestrians, all wanting to use the same space. And these were students, quote unquote, undertaking a task walk audit to better understand the environment and how they could respond from a policy perspective. But this suggests we need to change the way we think about how we learn, what we learn, and when we learn. And then finally, I'll close with a call to action to prepare to learn new things. This is a job posting for a terminal manager, something that we might see here in Southern California. And I think it combines in a nice way and depicts this intersection of technical skills, job-specific skills, and the need to be ready to prepare for knowledge of not only transport, but health, safety, and environmental regulations, proficiency with the data management tools from Microsoft Excel on up, and the ability to effectively communicate in the arena of human resource management so that the people understand both the human nature and the technological nature. And with that, I'm going to close. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to getting your questions and comments.